A well-known and respected tech CEO, Dario Amodei, who heads a cutting-edge AI company called Anthropic, is raising alarms tonight about AI's potential impact on employment that could soon be felt. While he says AI can lead to incredible advancements like medical breakthroughs and boost the economy, he believes it could also lead to half of entry-level white-collar jobs disappearing and 10 to 20% unemployment in the next 1 to 5 years.
Amazon CEO Andy Jassy says artificial intelligence will lead to a reduction of its corporate workforce eventually over the next few years. He wrote in a memo to employees that they should figure out, in his words, how to get more done with scrappier teams.
And so, Joseph, before we just dive into all the details, as I just said, we've talked a lot about the advances of the technology. It's come a long way in the last few years, but I think we'd all agree that the adoption is still pretty early. So is it too early to see tangible signs on the labor market?
Yeah, so when we look at adoption, we're currently tracking about 9% of companies in the U.S. using AI for regular production. Now, this number is probably a little bit lower than some of the more eye-popping adoption rates that get picked up in the media, but the definition that we're using when we say 9% is regular production for goods and services over the last 2 weeks. And I think this is the right definition to keep in mind because it's really what is going to be necessary. Companies using AI in regular production to drive significant productivity impacts. Now, given that adoption rates are only at 9%, it's not too surprising that we haven't seen a large impact or really any sort of meaningful impact in the overall labor market data yet. We have seen adoption pick up in sectors that are more exposed to AI. There's actually a very positive correlation between the exposure scores we constructed over 2 years ago and who's using AI today. But if we relate those to labor market slack indicators, things like unemployment rates, job finding rates, layoff rates, average hourly earnings, hours worked per week, there's really no sort of meaningful correlation. And so when I look at the impact that AI has had on the overall labor market data so far, it looks pretty small to me.
And if you think about industries, what industries have been most affected thus far?
Definitely the tech sector. One of the things that we flagged in our most recent report is that if you look at the tech sector's employment trends, they've been basically growing as a share of overall employment in a remarkably linear manner for the last 20 years. Over the last 3 years, we've actually seen a pullback in tech hiring that has led it to undershoot its trend. And so, this is telling us that in the tech sector, which I think is the one that has gotten the most attention in terms of leading the way for AI adoption, there has been, some meaningful headwinds to hiring and job growth. There's other sectors as well. Finance is an area that is showing pickup in adoption rates. Education is showing pickup in adoption rates. Business services more broadly. Anything exposed to content generation.
And there's also been a lot of discussion about the actual type of role that's being impacted here, right? So are you seeing some evidence in the data, the more junior roles, I would imagine, being impacted? What are you seeing?
Yeah, there's been a lot of questions around the lagged, hiring rates or the difficulties facing recent college graduates. I'm sure that we all know people who have had trouble finding jobs or a harder time than they would have normally, following the recent graduations. This is validated in the data. We're definitely seeing, a lower hiring rate for recent college grads. A lot of this is just related to the fact that the labor market has shifted back to a low hiring, low firing labor market. We're seeing this, very broadly across sectors, across different industries.
The unemployment rate for new college grads has recently surged, and some economists say businesses are now replacing entry-level jobs with artificial intelligence. Here's CBS's Ali Bauman.
Front gate, front gate.
22-year-old Michael Macaluso just earned his degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Connecticut.
Feel good?
But this summer, he's back helping manage his hometown pool. He hasn't found a job in his field despite applying for nearly 200 positions.
Did you have any expectations about what the job market would be like when you graduated?
I was told by a lot of people that I was going to get a job right out of college, and then all of a sudden, there's no jobs.
New research finds now, for the first time ever, the unemployment rate among recent college graduates has exceeded the national unemployment rate, ballooning to 6.6% over the past 12 months. Oxford Economics' Matthew Martin.
This goes against what you would expect. Those with higher educational attainment usually have better employment prospects than those with less educational attainment.
Martin's team believes companies are eliminating formative entry-level jobs, the work handed over to artificial intelligence. Tech companies are leading the way.
AI is permeating every aspect of our lives.
Nariman Farvardin, the president of Stevens Institute of Technology, says his school has been preparing for the AI revolution for the last 10 years. He expects disruption throughout the workforce will be bigger than the disturbance brought on by the introduction of the internet, and it could last up to 15 years.
I think AI has the potential to either augment or maybe totally replace jobs that are physically or cognitively repetitive. These jobs are not only done by entry people. There are certain people who do repetitive things for all of their life.
What about the effect on work, on the marketplace?
Yeah.
How much do you feel that AI is going to change people's jobs, the way jobs are distributed in the workforce?
I don't think we've seen, my view is, if you talk to economists, they feel like there's not much has changed yet. People are finding these tools useful, certainly in certain domains like things like AlphaFold. Many scientists are using it to accelerate their work. So it seems to be additive at the moment. We'll see what happens over the next 5-10 years. I think there's going to be a lot of change with the jobs world. But I think, as in the past, what generally tends to happen is new jobs are created that are actually better, that utilize these tools or new technologies. It's what happened with the internet, it's what happened with mobile. We'll see if it's different this time. Obviously, everyone always thinks this new one will be different, and maybe it will be. But I think for the next few years, it's most likely to be, we'll have these incredible tools that supercharge our productivity, make us, really useful for creative tools, and actually almost make us a little bit superhuman in some ways in what we're able to produce individually. So I think there's going to be a kind of golden era of the next period of what we're able to do.
Well, if AGI can do everything humans can do, then it would seem that they could do the new jobs too.
That's the next question about what AGI brings. But even if you have those capabilities, there's a lot of things I think we won't want to do, with a machine. I sometimes give this example of doctors and nurses. Maybe a doctor and what the doctor does and the diagnosis. One could imagine that being helped by a AI tool or even having an AI kind of doctor. On the other hand, like nursing, I don't think you'd want a robot to do that. I think there's something about the human empathy aspect of that and the care and so on that's particularly humanistic. I think there's lots of examples like that but it's going to be, a different world for sure.
If you would talk to a graduate now, what advice would you give to keep working through the course of a lifetime, in the age of AGI?
My view is currently, and of course this is changing all the time with the technology developing, but right now, if you think of the next 5-10 years as being the most productive people might be 10x more productive if they are native with these tools. So I think kids today, students today, my encouragement would be immerse yourself in these new systems, understand them. So I think it's still important to study STEM and programming and other things so that you understand how they're built. Maybe you can modify them yourself on top of the models that are available. There's lots of great open source models and so on. And then become, incredible at things like fine tuning, system prompting, system instructions, all of these additional things that anyone can do, and really know how to get the most out of those tools.
Dario, you've said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20%. How soon might that happen?
Just to back up a little bit, I've been building AI for over a decade. And I think maybe the most salient feature of the technology and what is driving all of this is how fast the technology is getting better. A couple of years ago, you could say that AI models were maybe as good as a smart high school student. I would say that now they're as good as a smart college student and sort of reaching past that. I really worry, particularly at the entry level, that the AI models are very much at the center of what an entry level human worker would do. And so it's hard to estimate, exactly what the impact would be. And there's always this question of adaptation. And these technology changes have happened before. But I think what is striking to me about this AI boom is that it's bigger and it's broader and it's moving faster than anything has before. And so compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough. And so there may be an adjustment period. I think the reason I'm raising the alarm is that I think others haven't as much. And, I think someone needs to say it, to be clear. And, I recognize it's always a difficult balance, right? I'm aware of my position that I'm building this technology while also expressing concerns about it. And, the reason I'm doing both of those things is, one, I think the benefits are massive. And, we need to find a way to achieve the benefits and mitigate or prevent the harms.